Are you tired of being stuck below 7,000 trophies? Are you tired that every game you face a mid-ladder menace running P.E.K.K.A, E-Barb, Sparky, Mega Knight, you name it? Well, my name's Keegan, and I'm a top 10,000 player in Ultimate Champion, and I'm here to share with you 5 of the most common mistakes that newer players make, and I'm also going to teach you how to fix them. Anyways, let's get into the first one. One of the biggest mistakes that newer players make is overcommitting. Have you ever spent a Hog Rider, an Ice Golem, and a Fireball at the bridge to take out their building, only to be faced off with maybe a little bit of damage? But coming down your lane is a Mega Knight, a Mini P.E.K.K.A, a Witch, a Balloon. That's because you might have overcommitted. So there is a fine line on offense between overcommitting and committing. So offense is obviously incredibly important to the game. You have to take a tower in order to win, or at least damage the tower more than your opponent damaged yours. So offense, incredibly important. You have to keep the pressure up depending on your deck. You have to counter push properly. There's a lot of things that go into it. But on the most simple level, overcommitting is just bad offense. It's just bad offense. It's just bad offense. And I can't stress this enough. This is one of the biggest mistakes most new players make in this game. You basically just spend too much on offense for not a good enough damage output. So Hog Rider, Ice Golem, Fireball at the bridge. Let's see. That's 10 elixir. You might get some damage. You probably will. You might even catch your opponent off guard and take their entire tower. But chances are you're going to lose yours, and you're going to get some damage on the King Tower. And the reason for this is because there is so much counter push potential that your opponent now has because you've allowed them to play all of their cards on defense. And you might have taken their tower, but their counter push is going to be so massive that you're not going to be able to defend their push. And even if you somehow do, you're going to be taking a lot of damage as well. So overcommitting. You can have a graveyard deck. Don't graveyard in single elixir. Save that puppy for double elixir to when you have a chance to get your elixir back and basically make the push properly. Another example is here where you go for a princess and then you go for a goblin barrel and a goblin gang all at the river in order to apply some pressure, right? That is a massive overcommit. First of all, your opponent has a spell. What do you do then? There you go. The log just absolutely sweeps your entire 9 elixir push, and suddenly you're down 7 elixir, struggling to defend a counter push. So yeah, overcommitting is a terrible mistake that most new players make, and it takes practice. How do I recommend fixing this? Play decks that are out of your comfort zone. Play offense sparingly. But there is a fine line between overcommitting and undercommitting. You don't always want to undercommit as well. A little Hog Rider at the bridge, and then there's a skeleton army, and you knew that skeleton army was coming, but you didn't log it. Why didn't you log it? Because you were afraid of overcommitting. But undercommitting is just as much of an issue. See, your Hog Rider will never get any damage on the tower, and thus you will never win the game because you didn't do any damage to the tower. So how are you going to win the game if you never did any damage? Now, in that case, a log would go 1,000 miles. So, anyways, that is overcommitting. Let's get into the next mistake here. The next most common mistake is not being able to realize when to apply pressure. Have you been in a game where your opponent is just starting to cook up this absolutely steamy golem, P.E.K.K.A, Mega Knight, doesn't matter what it is. It could be a humongous push, a lava hound, who knows? It's just a humongous push, started from the back, and you're just thinking, gosh, how am I supposed to defend this? Well, the answer is you need to apply some pressure on offense as well. So don't be afraid. The golem is going to be there in the back. The best way to go about this is to allow yourself some elixir on offense here. So say you have wall breakers, say you have a miner, say you have bats, say you have a princess, say you have a battle ram. Whatever you got to do, throw it in the other lane and try and take their tower with as little elixir as possible. If you can't take their tower, at least do a ton of damage. But don't overcommit. Once again, don't overcommit. You don't want to spend too much elixir in the opposite lane and suddenly you're not able to defend their golem, P.E.K.K.A, whatever push that's coming down their lane. Apply enough pressure to where they have to spend some elixir in that lane, so that way they don't have that elixir to build up their massive push. Now you've stolen Elixir from their push to defend yours, and hopefully you've gotten some damage out of it as well. So now that this golem's coming down your lane, make sure you focus on it now. But you've done what you needed to do. You've done the pressure. And there's a lot of instances to know when to pressure. You could be up a bazillion Elixir too, and you gotta take your advantage or take that advantage and convert it into some damage. Does that make sense? Okay, I hope that all makes sense to you. Let's get on to the next mistake. Another critical error from new players is bad card placement. Have you ever been watching a video of a pro player and they play all their cards in a certain way, and then you try to do it in their own match and you end up getting 3 crown? How is that possible? So let's say you have a Mega Knight at the bridge. How are you supposed to defend this? First of all, let me make it very clear. Ranged troops are obviously supposed to be placed out of range. You probably already know this. That's a given. Another thing is the cannon placement is extremely important. Any building placement, any building that you have is extremely important. You got to know where to place it. And in the position, you got to centralize it in this position right here. It's on screen, and you can't be playing it in other places because, well, I mean, there's certain scenarios where you need to play your cannon up higher or lower, depending on what it is, in the other lane. It does kind of matter, but you got to know the matchups. It's different. I could make a whole video on cannon placements or building placements based on every troop. But yeah, it's important to spread out your defenses as well and not bunch them up, because that will just cause for too much spell value and an easy offense for your opponent as well. But obviously, learning your card placements is very important. Another very important thing about card placement is offense. Let's say you have a graveyard. The difference between the placement of the graveyard could mean thousands of damage, and it also could mean whether you win or lose the game. So let's think about it. If you play your graveyard in this position right here, it's just instantly going to get countered. And even worse than that, well, first of all, it activates the King Tower, and worse than that is that the skellies spawn in the ring around the graveyard. So all the skellies are not going to... they're all going to be distanced as far away as possible from the tower as they possibly could be. Wouldn't you agree? Anyways, this is a better graveyard placement. If you play it there, basically you have a lot more skeletons that will spawn instantly on the tower, and none of them are going to walk over to the King Tower and activate it. Graveyard placements are very important. And there's a few more to learn if you're specifically a graveyard player, which I can get into another video. Anyways, let's move on to the next mistake. One huge critical error that I cannot stress enough is giving your opponent too much value. Now, imagine you start building up a massive push. You've gotten your Elixir lead. You've successfully managed to build up a push. You've placed your Witch, you've placed your Golem, you've placed your Goblin Machine, your Mini Peck, all in the same lane, ready to steamroll his tower. Until he sends a rocket right at it, and all of it's dead suddenly. And now he's the one with the Elixir advantage, and you're the one without a push. You might have a 2 HP Golem walking down the lane, sadly without his companions. But that's not what you want. You wanted that push to steamroll. So how do you fix this? First of all, you bunched up your troops. You put them all together. Now, in theory, this is all right if they don't have a way to stop it. But since they do, and they have that rocket, they have that fireball, they have that poison, they have a Mega Knight, they have a way to take all of your troops out in one fell swoop with one little Elixir spend right there. You got to be able to be ready for that. So you got to space out your troops. You got to play your baby dragon on the river. You got to play your witch over there. You got to wait till your golem crosses and then start playing more support troops. So that way you have a nice spread. So if they are to send a rocket, they cannot hit everything. And if they do, a lot of your push will still be alive, and thus it'll be worth. It'll still take the tower like you need it to. Anyways, that's important. Another important thing is when you're facing up against graveyard, and you just put all of your troops in that little range where the graveyard is, and then they got a poison, and then suddenly all of your troops are dead. Your Goblin Gang, your Dark Goblin, your Princess, they're all gone in seconds. That's 9 Elixir, poof, and then he suddenly just takes your tower as well, because there comes down a Vine Spell, and there goes your tower. How do you stop this? Once again, it's the same issue. It's the same solution as well. You just have to space out your troops. You can throw the Goblin Gang there. That's fine. He's going to poison it, whatever. But your Dark Goblin will be far away from that poison, so that way your Dark Goblin can stay alive and defend the graveyard. And your Princess is somewhere else as well. That way, your graveyard, basically, the graveyard, his poison is going to be effective in a way, but it won't get all of your push. And that's the most important part. That is the most important part. Anyways, that is a huge... I can't stress that enough. That is a huge problem that if you make that mistake a lot, you got to fix it. Anyways, let's move on to the next mistake. The final mistake is your deck. Let's face it, your deck is trash. Now, you could also be underleveled, which is not really a mistake. It's just how it is. The game is extremely pay to win, and it favors those who pay money to Supercell. Anyways, it's very frustrating for newer players to get maxed out. So anyways, let's just take a deep dive of your deck. That P.E.K.K.A, that Mega Knight, that E-Barbs, it's not going to work. Once you get into the big leagues, people are going to know how to defend that. They've seen it once or twice. They know what to do. You're going to have to start making some changes. Now, this doesn't mean you have to just pick a meta deck and start leveling it up. But let's just say make some changes, you know? More often than not, that beautiful homemade deck that you've made 2 years ago that has carried you all the way up to 8,000 trophies suddenly stops working for a reason. It's because those players are getting better and they know what to do. So make some changes. Maybe you're even playing the deck wrong. Let's say you have a bait deck and you're playing it extremely passively. You're not supposed to play it like that. Bait decks are meant to be a lot more aggressive. Let's say you have a golem deck and you're just immediately shoving golems and all your support troops and all of your elixir at the bridge first play. That's not the play. You don't want to be doing that. That's not how you play the deck, basically. You got to learn how to play. There's a lot of, I can't teach everybody how to play their deck in this video, but I can say that there's a chance that you're playing it wrong. And go ahead and look a video up on that. I don't really care. I have a lot of good content on this channel that teaches how to play multiple different types of decks. Anyways, fix your deck. And that is thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out my other videos. There's also a link in the description for a video that you yourself might like. If you want to learn a few decks, I have a perfect one for you, and I'm going to link that right there. Anyways, go check that out. Make sure to comment your favorite word, and have a great day. Peace out. Bye.